please make sure to show this video to your DJ or MC to make sure you don't get embarrassed at your own wedding. Toasts, blessings, and speeches are just kind of part of a typical wedding reception. If it's the father of the bride doing a welcome speech for all the guests at the beginning of the reception, or maybe a pastor doing a quick blessing before dinner, or if it's someone in your wedding party doing a speech to honor the new couple, maybe it's the best man or the maid of honor, a family member, a friend, a loved one, there's always speeches happening at weddings. And for a lot of DJs or MCs, that means if someone wants to say something on the microphone, you let them. Right? Now, this is just my opinion, and not everyone's going to agree with me, but no, absolutely not. I would really encourage you to ask your DJ or MC what rules they use concerning the microphone, because if you don't, it could end up being a disaster at your wedding. Now, before I DJ and host any wedding, I always have a couple of meetings with the couple in person, or lately it's been on Zoom, to discuss their music selections, the day of, lineup, how everything is gonna go down, all the logistics, things like that. But one new thing I discuss with couples starting in about the last year or so has been my microphone policy. And in short, it's this. If someone isn't on a pre-approved list that the bride and groom get me before the wedding, they don't get to touch a microphone. Period. The end. Full stop. No cap. No microphone. Now, here's how that works. When I'm meeting with the couple, usually the last meeting before the wedding, to go over the final list of song selections, who's doing speeches, in what order, I ask them one additional question. And that is, in addition to the 2 or 3 or 4 or 1 people giving speeches that are on my list during your wedding reception, is there anyone else you grant permission to talk on the microphone during your wedding? And that includes siblings, loved ones, parents, legal guardians, folks maybe from a church. I always explain to the couple, think long and hard about anybody that maybe may want to say something. Would you want them to talk on the microphone in front of everybody at your wedding? And the reason I'm trying to get this pre-approved list from the soon-to-be wedded couple is because at every single wedding, it's pretty much a universal truth that folks who aren't on the pre-approved list always want to grab the microphone and say something nice for the bride and groom. At least that's what they tell me, and then they grab the microphone and who knows what could happen. Now, a lot of times it'll go perfectly smooth. Someone who's not on the pre-approved microphone list is going to say something very loving and nice and sweet, maybe tell a fun story about the new couple, but it doesn't always happen that way. I've DJ'd weddings where people who even were on the approved list said some really nasty things on microphones, offensive things about the bride or groom, trying to be funny, but it just came off as hurtful and nasty, even said some racist things about folks that are in the bridal party or even the couple getting married. I've seen some really disastrous things happen at wedding receptions on microphones, so I take this rule really seriously. And again, just to make it clear, if someone isn't on the pre-approved list that the bride and groom give me before the wedding, they don't get to touch a microphone. I don't care if it's the father of the bride, the mother of the bride, the father of the groom, the mother of the groom, a step-parent, a sibling, a cousin, a preacher, a pastor. I don't care if it's your cousin that was lost at sea for 15 years and they show up in the middle of your reception, they still don't get to touch a microphone. And if you're watching this thinking, wow, this guy is kind of an asshole, well, I would rather be an asshole who protect my bride and groom and piss off a wedding guest than be the DJ that doesn't care and lets anyone touch the microphone like it's a plaything and say whatever they want and take that risk. In last week's episode, I talked about how I like to protect the bride and groom with songs and requests I play and don't play, and this is the same thing. There's a lot of unknown things that could happen when somebody who isn't on a pre-approved list gets to grab a microphone and say whatever they want. And you got to keep in mind at weddings, almost everyone's drinking alcohol. A lot of people who don't go out a lot, maybe don't drink a lot, are drinking more than they normally do. And also people that are giving speeches probably don't talk in front of a crowd a lot, so they maybe don't know how to handle themselves, especially when alcohol is involved. Now, one way people try to sidestep this is I might get like a cousin of the bride come up to the DJ booth and say, oh, hey, is it okay if I say a couple of words on the bride's cousin? She said I could. I still say no. Every time. And I'm also not going to waste the bride's time by walking up to her and saying, excuse me, your cousin wanted to talk on the microphone. Is that okay? That's stupid, and I'm not going to do that. And if she wanted her cousin to talk on the microphone, she would have told me beforehand, right? And this rule, I guarantee, will piss off at least 1 or 2 wedding guests at every single wedding. But again, that's a bullet I'm willing to take if it means protecting the bride and groom and making sure they're comfortable and having fun at their wedding that they're paying for. If this is something you're concerned about, maybe you have a few family members that are going to say something, maybe a little racy, something offensive, something racist, someone you just don't trust in front of a group of people on a microphone on a day when there's already a lot going on and a lot of pressure involved. Tell your DJ or MC, these are the only people we'd like speaking on the microphone during our wedding reception. And any DJ or host with any kind of experience will understand that rule, they'll abide by it, and they'll be able to tell people no at your wedding that they can't touch the microphone and talk on it. Just make sure if it's something that maybe you're now thinking about for the first time, just talk to your DJ or the host of your wedding and tell them these are the people we want talking on the microphone and nobody else, please, to avoid any kind of issues. It's just a little detail that takes almost zero work, but can take a lot of variables out of your wedding, and it can't guarantee it, but usually means the night's gonna go a lot smoother with less weird, awkward, and offensive interruptions. On next week's episode, we're gonna discuss putting together a do not playlist for your band or your DJ, those songs or artists you absolutely don't want to hear during your wedding reception. Now, it's always fine to put an artist or two on there that you don't care for, or maybe a couple of songs that you don't jive with, but you don't want it to be this giant list because it kind of could ruin the dance floor at your wedding reception. I'll explain why next week and how to put together a very simple and effective do not playlist for your wedding. Because planning a wedding can be a lot, but you shouldn't get caught up in those little details. Just cut the cake.